In 1888, after the original home in Blackberry Creek in Hardy, Kentucky was set on fire and destroyed, with 2 of their children also being murdered, Randolph and Sarah McCoy relocated the family to Pikeville, Kentucky. They eventually lived in a home on Main Street. The McCoy patriarch, Randolph, worked as a ferry operator during these years. Today, the former McCoy home is a location at Chirico's restaurant. The home includes a historical marker and is listed as a state historical landmark. Parts of the original home have been preserved, and the owners frequently allow people to dine and visit the landmark. Randolph continued to nurse his grudge after he moved against the Hatfields, but this time it took form of talk instead of violence. He never again returned to his house in Blackberry Creek, but his trials and suffering there remained. He unfolded about his grievances against the Hatfields freely when he would talk to people. Sarah eventually passed away in 1890, around the age of 60. Randall outlived his wife and died at the age of 88 from burns. He was buried at Dill Cemetery with very little fanfare and a very humble marker. Walked down to Randall McCoy's house after his cabin was burned, and on New Year's Day he retreated to Pikeville, which then was quite a hike. I mean, I think you said your grandfather, it took him it was like a 2-day trip, right?
My grandfather came over for the census, and it was a 2-day trip each way on a horse. You can drive it now in about 30 minutes.
So Randall came up here to live with Sarah and his remaining children. He did have other children that no one ever hears about. But now it's Chirico's restaurant.
Right. So was he was living here when he had the incident at the fire, right?
Yes, he died here, and so did Sarah.
That's what I thought. That's right.
So yeah, it's Chirico's. If you're ever in Pikeville, stop by there. Get you something. They got some good food, actually. Home of Randolph McCoy. So yeah, Randall actually died about 30 years after Sarah. So Randall, who'd been a God-fearing man his whole life, rumor is he turned to drinking where Devil Anse got saved. It's not an easy life, that's for sure.
Kids murdered, your house burned.
So this is the original house, and then I know they built this back end part on.
I bet he probably would be happy to know law firms in his old house.
Yeah. So if you come to Pikeville, it's definitely worth checking out this little area because it's right on the same street the old jail was, where Cotton Top was, and
Plus these three.
And he was hung not far from here.
See the size of that tree. You know that thing was there when all this happened.
Yeah.
Those trees were here. They saw all this stuff. We could just get them to tell the story on video. We'd have it made, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
This little spot here is on the way from where I was just at. That's the Dill Cemetery right up there where Randall McCoy's buried right there. And that's the fire department. You pull in behind it and park there. But we are directly across the street. Now this is the Appalachian Wireless Arena here in Pikeville, Kentucky. A lot of people have asked us, how did Randall and, what did they do for a living? Well, Devil Anse was a millionaire, like I said, in other videos. He was a millionaire from logging. Randall, he wasn't quite so wealthy. Now this right here, they diverted the river. The river used to run right through here. This was the old river. The city of Pikeville diverted the river, what was called the Pikeville Cut-Through Project. The river goes down that way now and circles around the town, or it bypasses the town instead of going all the way around it. Back in the day, the river ran right through here, and this was a fairly deep section. People used to go, you know, that's how you get, you know, out of the area. You know, you go that way, or back down behind me, whatever. Randall, he had a ferry crossing. He was the ferryman right here. This is where Randall McCoy worked when he moved over here. Years later, after the feud, when he moved to Pikeville, you know, lived next to Perry Klein, all that stuff, that's right over that way. A couple 100 yards, something like that. So this is as far as he had to go to get to work. He just walked across town to his little, I guess, a boat dock. I haven't really seen pictures of it, but he would ferry people back and forth across the river right here. This is what Randall McCoy did for a living later on in life, right here. He ferried people across the river right there. Thought I'd stop and show y'all that real quick. Anyway, let's head on up.
Randall would never know how famous him and his family would become later on. He died pretty much with a few friends and just living a normal life. He would have no clue of how popular the Hatfield-McCoy feud has become even now. I think he'd be blown away.
Hatfield-McCoy feud. If you look back here, I'll show you a couple things. You can see their original markers. Just a plain old rock. Now we've showed you a lot of these in different graveyards, you know, where they're just rocks. These are Randall and Sarah's rocks. Now the Devilance Cemetery, if you remember, Devilance, he's got a great big Italian marble statue and all sorts of stuff. You know, a lot of the family do. Johnsy, so on and so on. They got really nice ones. They were a little bit wealthier than the McCoys. Let's put it that way. Randall wasn't poor by any means. He was a working man. Devilance, on the other hand, was a millionaire. At his death, he was said to have between $2 and $5 million at his death. So that's why he has the fancy one, and Randall and Sarah had rocks.